always knew it would come to this, just not so soon. I wonder if Abstergo even knows what's about to happen. And has this been a part of their plan all along? Maybe they want the world to end, to see it all burned away. Then they'd have their new world, ripe for the reshaping.
Let's not leave anything to chance. Last thing we need is some damn survivor making trouble for us in the new world.
And the assassin?
We have what we need.
I am the Order's humble servant.
You're not even a person anymore. You're a tool, a weapon, a plaything.
We're done here.
And in the glorious New World Order, there won't be any room for broken toys like us!
Then we welcome you into our fold, brother. You are now a Templar, harbinger of a new world.
In the wake of revolution, the Order will adapt.
The new order never comes without destruction of the old. If men are made to fear untrammeled liberty, so much the better. A brief taste of chaos will remind them why they crave obedience.
Hey guys, I won't be talking much in this video, because it kind of speaks for itself. I don't think this was part of a prank created by a programmer who wanted to troll conspiracy theorists. I think it's part of the plan, like everything else these days. The all-seeing eyes are pretty much present everywhere in this game. This is the tallest building in Assassin's Creed 2. I guess the all-seeing eye likes to be all-seeing. Nice background over here.
Protect us, to save us from the fire.
Of course, here is a section where you will have to slow down the video a bit, or for the obvious all-seeing eye, there are also other symbols used in occultism.
Commences. There is one who would accompany you to the gate. He lies not within our sight. The cross darkens the horizon.
The cross darkens the horizon. This could be a direct reference to Christianity. On this top of the pyramid, we will see an unsurprising symbol.
I am the only king here!
And the only king here, and then we see the all-seeing eye. Now this church is very interesting. We have the four elements here, four earthly elements. We've got earth, air, water, and fire. We have to align these symbols so that we can open the rabbit hole. It is interesting when we analyze in real life that we also have some churches influenced by this pagan symbolism. When you combine these four elements, you get a hexagram, which is supposedly called the Star of David. I think it has more to do with Solomon rather than David. This is magical occult stuff. It has nothing to do with God. Now, of course, Masons were the ones who built the churches in the medieval days, and that's why you see most of their doctrine present. We go down the rabbit hole similarly to how we go down in the Inverdis Virtus game. We have a hexagram. This is not a coincidence, guys. Now we see the pyramid and we will interact with an artifact. Let's see what this artifact is.
The artifact.
And yes, we see a nice octahedron here. I also believe it to be the cube of Metatron, which is connected to the fruit of life, the flower of life, and the Kabbalah tree of life. If we play with forces that we do not understand completely, the ending is also inevitable, in this case the destruction of a whole town, beginning with a church. I believe this is connected to the CERN conspiracy. We just passed the nice little Denver horse of the apocalypse there. And now we see the checkerboard floor. Of course, this is not random, it is directly related to the escape that they believe will happen once you open the gates between the pillars, once you go through the stairs. This is a common Masonic symbol right here. He ends in water, which is of course symbol for the abyss. Now here's what these guys say.
How could God do this to them? God
has nothing to do with this, of course. If you go to CERN, you will see a nice Shiva goddess statue, which is the destroyer of worlds in Hinduism. We see the symbol again here. Very nice. We see some light, some counterfeit light of Lucifer, and now we go head to head with another pyramid again, another octahedron, another Kabbalistic symbol, Metatron cube, falls down, of course. The octahedron is actually a combination of two pyramids, basically. Of course, this whole area will be destroyed again. At this point, there is also an individual from the Assassin's crew who says, "Is this world worth saving?" Which kind of shows you the morality of the assassins. They're not the good guys that you thought they were. Again, the checkerboard floor in the ending of Assassin's Creed Rogue. This boy and this girl is direct symbolism to Adam and Eve and the apple. They talk about stealing an apple there. The whole Palace of Versailles is actually with checkerboard floor. And this happens in 1776 when the official Order of the Illuminati was actually formed.
Never share our secrets, nor divulge the true nature of our work. Do so until death, whatever the cost.
Now we are in Assassin's Creed Unity. We see the same checkerboard floor going to the light to access this well-wanted escape. They want to escape time and space. They think God is a dictator. So they want to create this immortality by the full control of the elements. Now, if you know your symbolism, this should also lead to some sort of escape. Let's see what escape we will find.
If you could pluck your head from your own arse, come find us. You may find figure.
In my other videos, you will see that it has to do with the opening the gates to hell. So let's see what we find here after we open the gates. Very nicely, we go through the light and we enter the darkness. We see a lot of figures here. These guys are all part of the abyss. And we even see on the wall a word which is mortis, and it refers to death. Mortis is death in Latin. So we are in the land of the dead, and a nice ritual is also taking place here. This is all occult stuff that they don't say in the game. It's an alternative interpretation of what we see, and it is strictly my own opinion. Another scene where you will have to turn down the speed of the video to be able to see all the symbols. This is the symbol for Abstergo, the main company in the game. This is the symbol for Assassin's Creed, which supposedly fight for freedom. We also find this symbol of masons throughout the tunnels of the game.
In these tunnels we can get anywhere in the city, all without being seen. We have eyes everywhere.
Really? Seems visibility would be a problem. Wouldn't you prefer something with a view?
The Templars are the second faction in the game. They are viewed as negative, however, I see these two secret societies the same as evil. Assassin's Creed and the Templars have the same principles, as well as initiation process.
Very well. Out of the dark you come into the light. From the light you will return to the dark. Are you prepared to travel the Eagle's path?
If that's a fancy way of asking, do I want your help? Yes.
Uphold the principles of our order, and all that for which we stand. Never share our secrets, nor divulge the true nature of our work. Do so until death, whatever the cost. This is my new creed. I am Shay Patrick Cormac, Templar of the Colonial, of the American right.
Then drink.
happening?
Hello?
These are the words spoken by our ancestors, the words that lay at the heart of our creed. Follow them and be uplifted. Break them at your peril. Rise.
Do you swear to uphold the principles of our order? And all that for which we stand?
I do.
And never to share our secrets, nor divulge the true nature of our work?
I do.
And to do so from now until death, whatever the cost?
I do.
Then we welcome you into our fold, brother. You are now a Templar, harbinger of a new world. May the Father of Understanding guide us.
May the Father of Understanding guide us.
But you are Templars now, the secret and true legislators of the world. Please, hold out your hands. Mark and remember our purpose. To guide all wayward souls till they've reached the quiet road. To guide all wayward desire till impassioned hearts are cool. To guide all wayward minds to safe and sober thought. By the Father of Understanding's light, let our work now begin.
A most interesting fact is that Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master of the Templars, and Geoffrey de Charnay, when they were about to be executed in 1314 by King Philip IV and Pope Clement V, cursed them with a combination of words, completing each other's sentences.
Pope Clement, hear me? Before this year is out, you will answer for your crimes before God Almighty! And you, King Philip, no punishment is too heinous for the great evil you have inflicted upon the temple! I curse you! Curse you to the 13th generation of your blood! You shall be cursed!
The curse worked, and both the King of France and the Pope died the same year. This is all historically documented, and you can even find it on Wikipedia. The Templars united with the Freemasons in Scotland because Scotland was one of the best places to retreat after their banishment, as there was no papal influence. Another best place is where is now Switzerland, where they retreated through the trails of the mountains of France, which they knew very well. We see great progress in these two areas after the arrival of the Templars, and prior to Switzerland there are folklore tales that portray white knights helping the peasants successfully defend against professional invading armies. Scotland also successfully won their independence battle. In time, the power of the hidden Templars has only grown, and now they are trying to awake the beast at CERN, which is why they have a monument of Shiva, the destroyer of worlds, right next to the facility. Upon analysis, we realize that there is no way to represent the good in this game. Both Templars and Assassins are part of the same occult world, two factions of the same head.
They're coming to steal, kill, and destroy, and this should be very clear from the Jesuit oath that is taken, that this is very intentional. This society is rooted in Freemasonry, with Pope Francis being the first ever Jesuit Pope. They're not Christians, they're Luciferians and Kabbalists. What we're seeing develop with the ecumenical movement is leading to the New Age of Antichrist. Do not be deceived.
The biggest church split in history. The Catholic Church split. Satan is the spirit of division. Now, when you're dealing with what happened 500 years ago, what is a protest? Strife. Oh, one of my favorite days in my life was with Pope Francis. What a man. He's one of my heroes. And this is what he's all about. This whole thing. That's one of the things that got me so on fire about it. And I am on fire. Say it together. Say Catholic, Lutheran.
If there is no more protest, how can there be a Protestant church?
What it is essentially, remember with the Knights Templar, this is dominionism. This is dominion theology, about taking over the world.
Solomon, as opposed to his father, started following the deities of his foreign wives, deities such as Ashtoreth, Chemosh, and Molech, which even required child sacrifice. What is this symbol? They say it's the Star of David, but there are no real references that connect this symbol to David. On the contrary, there are a lot of references that connect this symbol to the seal of Saturn, occult works, and Kabbalistic sources. It has more to do with the conquering of the forces of nature than with God's teaching. The occultists believe that through the use of human technology, conquering of these forces of nature through the alchemical mastery and the practice of the mystery Babylonian religions, man will achieve full control of the world and become immortal without the help of God. This process will be completed with the coming of the New Age, or the New World. They are followers of the bull gods, which Solomon betrayed God for. The Templars, followers of Baal, or Ba-El. That is why we have an interesting movie called The Brotherhood of the Bell, where it is being shown how the secret societies work and what can happen if the vows of secrecy are being broken.
Do you swear that having been entrusted with these articles and letters since midnight this night, that you alone read them and did not communicate their content to any person whatsoever?
I so swear.
Having so sworn, are you now prepared to go forward?
I am prepared.
Mr. Dunning, for over 200 years, Brothers of the Bell have been initiated before this bell, and in the same ceremony, at sunrise. But that continuity depends upon one thing: obedience. Absolute obedience. If and when you are ever called upon by Mr. Patterson to pay your due bill, you must comply, whatever is asked of you. Are you ready for the oath?
I am.
The oath, gentlemen. I, Chad Edward Dunning, do swear in absolute faith that I shall reveal no secret of the Brotherhood of the Bell, that I shall respect my brothers and myself, that I will act as they desire, secure their interests as if they were my own. And I pledge this,
My honor, my fortune, and my life.
This occult symbolism of the followers of Baal is pushed forward in Assassin's Creed, as well as a lot of misleading theories of how man was created, how secret societies work, and where humanity is heading. You can say it's sci-fi, but I personally think it's all part of the propaganda to create a Luciferian society. The same company which makes the Assassin's Creed series is the creator of Watch Dogs, a game which is also filled with occult symbolism. Why would a game which is supposed to be about materialistic down-to-earth topics has as its main logo the seal of Aleister Crowley, one of the most recognized practitioners of occult teachings?
It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you up here today.
Gotta hand it to you, numbskull. You proved yourself to be more than a simple research monkey.
The data you extracted from Shay Cormac's memories has served us well. Shay's story is a message. One that says that when threatened, what an assassin truly wants isn't freedom, but order.
And we represent the highest order there is.
Whatever you learned from your Animus experience only scratches the surface. We have existed since before recorded human history, and have recently been reborn, disguised as Abstergo Industries.
And entertainment.
You have crossed the threshold, and your eyes have been opened. You have seen the world for what it truly is.
There's no turning back now. We got big plans for you.
The Father of Understanding guided you to us, and for that we are grateful. The test of your true worth begins now. And it begins with a choice.
Join us, and a bright future will be all yours.
Refuse.
Eve!
Look out! Wow.
Was that what I think it was?
We must speak.
Who are you?
Many names. When I died, it was Minerva. Before that, Merva and Mera. But on and on. The others, too. Juno, who was before called Uni. Jupiter, who was before called Tinia. We who made you. We who gave you life. We were strong, but you were many.
If you heed Minerva, the sun will have its way. The ground will crack and spit fire into the skies. All the world will burn. But this does not end the world, merely heralds its arrival. Darkness follows. Then you emerge, resolving to lay a foundation that such a tragedy does not befall the world again. You will become a symbol to those who survive. Hope, knowledge, determination. You will inspire them to rebuild, to thrive once more. And as the world heals, so too will humanity. But you are just a man, frail and mortal. You pass from the world, leaving behind only a memory. A legacy. You will be remembered first as a hero, later as a legend, and in time, as a god. It is the cruelest fate, to have written words that meant well, and see them made wicked and unwise. What was meant to encourage life, used instead to justify taking it. And so now you see that what was shall be again. So tell me, how is this better?
No higher power sits in judgment of us. No supreme being watches to punish us for our sins. All that we do, all that we are, begins and ends with ourselves.
As permanent master of these three lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most worshipful Grand Master,
On behalf of the brethren of Royal Somerset House,
Most Worshipful Grand Master,
our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage and the birth of organised Freemasonry,
stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray His blessings on your Majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your Majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017. Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000, gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond.
Now, at its very core, this issue seems to tie right into the Knights Templar. And I know that sounds very strange from the get-go, but honestly, this deception that's coming into the church is actually tied to the Jesuit Knights Templar, the government of the Order of the Temple of Solomon. I mean, not only are we in the time where everyone's saying, you know, is there going to be a third temple? And then in 2013, it comes to light here that the Knights Templar are back, you know, not that they ever went away, but they've come back into the public light. The Sovereign Magistral Order of the Temple of Solomon. 2013 AD. It's fully restored as an independent sovereign subject of international law in 2013, embodying the authentic Templar heritage. And we literally have a whole website here which is dedicated to all of these official documents, legal documents, mind you, and the missions. This is what I want to show you, this Templar spirituality. And this is how this links with this deception that we're seeing, the worship of the goddess, the reverence of the divine feminine, Gaia. The temple rule proves that the Knights Templar were always dedicated to honouring the divine feminine principle as the spiritual feminine aspect of God. So you can see how this ties to the Roman Catholic Church, to the Jesuits, to Allah, the moon goddess, and to all of these false religions, but also this pagan New Age, which is actually the Old Age Babylon agenda, and the throwing out of this masculine. We see all these attacks on God and the Old Testament and the truth of God, and turning into this airy-fairy, emotional, experiential deal without boundaries, without restrictions, without commands. And all of this stuff is tying into, when you come to its very core, the conspiracy at its very heart of the New World Order, the Antichrist, the paganism, the Babylon agenda, New World Order, is actually rooted in the Knights Templar, who never went away, but now in 2013 have officially come out into the public and declared themselves sovereign, a sovereign entity without territory, but sovereign nonetheless. So it's all about Gnosticism and Christian mysticism, the divine feminine. The uniquely ancient and diverse heritage of Templar spirituality was fully disclosed to the Vatican and officially endorsed by the Roman Catholic Church. Authentic Templar spirituality is a form of esoteric Gnosticism which is wholly compatible with the canonical Christian mysticism of classical Catholicism. Gnostic spirituality primarily concentrates on personal divine communion through the Holy Spirit. Here we go, look, Templar chivalry, look at this. This is the picture of the Pope with all the world leaders of religions, of false religions. Hinduism, Islam, Baha'i. And this is what they are showing. And at the bottom of the page we can see all of these emblems which say a lot. Pontifical protection, recognised by 5 Vatican papal bulls as Templar guardians of the Church. Cooperation with Islam. Look at that, cooperation with Islam as a tool of the Jesuit Knights Templar. Look at this. The Knights of Saladin under Templar sovereign patronage. Diplomatic relations with the United Nations with the crest of Rome. Oh my goodness me. Look at this, United Nations. This is where all of these agendas are coming to. So, and remember with the United Nations that they have those books on New Age spirituality, Alice Bailey, and all of these people who were involved in this Gnostic counterfeit spirituality of the Antichrist. And this is very similar. This logo is very similar to what we see on some of the big Christian, so-called Christian broadcasting networks at the very top.
The test of your true worth begins now. And it begins with a choice.
Join us, and a bright future will be all yours.
Refuse.
The cross darkens the horizon.
What are you doing?
The path must be opened. You cannot escape your part in this. The scales shall be balanced.
Stop, please!
You know very little. We must guide you. Cease your struggle.
No!
It is done. The way lies all before you. Only she remains to be found. Awaken the 6th. Go, alone.
The main logo of the game presents us with an image that I believe to be not the destruction of hell, but the rise of the Antichrist and his legions. We've got pentagrams on both left and right, and the Saint's logo in the middle, symbol of which meanings are highly debatable. It has been used, however, on many coat of arms across the world, as well as in sports teams, universities, architecture and military, one of the most relevant examples being the Israeli intelligence force. This wouldn't be the first time military intelligence is using occult symbolism. I suspect this particular savior to be an Antichrist figure also because of the color purple, which is the main color in Masonic tradition and represents the unification of the pillars, which open the gate to their architect, which will bring forth a new age. Specifically, the fifth age, which in Roman numerals is represented by the letter V, which we can find in the Saints Row Developer Company logo, where we can also see the dehumanized head of the approaching transhumanism. The showing of two V's seems to be a main theme in the occult symbolism world. There is an interesting scene in the movie Kingsman where this theory is completely confirmed. In the mountains where the elites form a facility to preserve themselves while the rest of humanity is killed, there is a hall where an announcement on the coming new age is being held by a self-proclaimed leader dressed in purple who sits above all.
We must put aside all thoughts of death and focus on birth, the birth of a new age. We mustn't mourn those who give their lives today. You are the chosen people.
There are two screens on the left and right which show the countdown to the new age. There is a V on top of the numbers, thus forming two Vs. I believe this to be very similar to the main logo of the game Saints Row Get Out of Hell. The A in Get might also be an upside down V. This game masks itself as a comedy as an excuse to put forth a large quantity of satanic ideas. The game starts with a party in which we are told that using a Ouija board at a birthday party is tradition.
It's tradition! Every slumber party has to involve a spirit board!
Slumber party?
How's it work? We ask it a question, and the spirit of the board will reveal the answer. How?
Yeah, someone pushes the pointy thing to wherever they want.
Wait. Can we go back to you and your slumber parties?
No time! Alright, everyone put their hands on the cursor.
Upon the usage of the board, they come in contact with a demonic entity called Jezebel, and also make a reference to Aleister Crowley.
Is that not normal?
Where'd you get the board?
I was going through Signac's artifact collection and found it there.
Who did it belong to?
Aleister Crowley?
Jezebel is actually mentioned in the Bible and is also known to be a worshipper of Baal, as well as a promoter of over-sexuality, human sacrifice, and killing of God's prophets. She was the princess of Phoenicia and the wife of Ahab, king of northern Israel, which she also tried to convince and convert to Baal, Satan worship. The main characters are being sent through the rabbit hole, exactly in the center of a pentagram, a symbol which we are going to see a lot in this game. As they are lifting from the ground, we are being shown a storm very similar to that on Saturn, which is another meaning of the pentagram. The XX is also a symbol of Saturn and the gates of hell, which is why in the next scene this theory is being confirmed by an entity which says "Welcome to Hell," as some wood burns in the background in the shape of the XX.
Welcome to hell. I'm gonna shoot the devil in the face.
I think you might be skipping some details.
No, I said in the face.
I like the commitment, but you gotta find a way to get close enough to him in the first place.
When's the wedding? I'll just show up
and then you'll shoot him in the face.
The ignorance of this game is that it gives us the idea that we can defeat demons with guns. Spiritual beings from another realm cannot be defeated with human material technology. Also, you cannot defeat evil by using violence. Promoting violence as a savior is another clue for why I think this game is satanic. Next, we are being given an artifact which gives us the wings of Lucifer, the morning star. In fact, the game narrator tells us herself.
This holy relic granted Johnny the majestic wings of the morning star.
And they also make sure to portray the final image with occult satanic elements, such as the pyramid and the lightning bolt, which represents Satan. So to defeat Satan, apparently we have to learn ourselves how to use the demonic powers.
Just collect some soul clusters and power up the halo, you'll be flying around in no time. Good job! Now get up that cliff. Don't worry, if something looks too high, just keep on jumping off the wall. Remember to charge your jumps if you want to get up the cliff faster. Here's the deal. If you want some FaceTime with Satan, you need to get his attention. There's lots of ways to get Satan's attention, but we should never forget the classic rampant murder. Pride is a sin the devil's army has in spades, so if you want to pick a fight, you can bet your they're coming in droves. If you convert all the control stones, we should be able to use them to get around hell even faster.
After seeing this, I think we can clearly say that this character, by acquiring all the demonic qualities, step by step, willingly becomes a demon himself. The following scene is a pure MKUltra style mind control house, from the rainbow to the characters which are lost, hypnotized by the music. Indeed, behind the mind control projects, there is only demonic energy. On the walls, there are these messages telling the characters, and I suspect us, to follow directions, to follow the rainbow, the yellow brick road, which will lead us to the perfect world of togetherness. This is all part of the creation of an alternative, better reality in which the mind control victim can retreat in, while the new programmed personality is being allowed to take control.
The horn on the bus goes beep, 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 beep.
Wheels on the bus go round and round.
No one alive! We must end this infernal music! Come, let us return to my castle.
This is exactly what happens in our world today, where a lot of people happen to be in depression, and the only escape they can find is by consuming video games and other forms of entertainment. It is all part of the plan.
I wanted to preface this section with an image of the data centers considered used to administer the gang stalking networks in the US, presumably similar in other countries outside the United States also. This is the NWO behind all this, but it should go without saying it's all very militarily controlled. I thought of all things I'm presenting here, it might be the most help in understanding some of the epic and biblical chaos going on in the world right now. I'll discuss the Phoenix and order out of chaos in the next chapter, but to define all the chaos the world is seeing right now in one word, that word would have to be Satanism, or maybe Luciferianism, as this does relate directly to the sun god, dating from well before Egypt. If you skip directly to this section, you won't take that as seriously as those who didn't, I'm sure, but that is why the mind control and gang stalking, also known as surveillance role-playing, are happening. A prime goal, if not the number one goal of Satanism, is to control the minds of the rest of the public. And before I get too far, let me reiterate how the Illuminati elite feel about the lower actual working classes. We're goyim, or human cattle, or even insects to the phony Jew elite, or lab rats or mice to be experimented on by the unofficial Nazi Fourth Reich, Aryan Brotherhood, and even eaten by Minervan owl worshippers. Owls eat mice. To the Catholic Mafia and pagans, we're slaves to be bullied and treated as animals just the same. And as I showed before, Washington, D.C. was once called Rome, so that may offer a clue as to whose hidden hand might have been in the U.S. military from day one. It's not all a Jew conspiracy, as so many believe. You might even call them all the Brotherhood of the Snake. There are many controllers and handlers in the satanic mind control networks, filtering down through the ranks of the pyramid. Controlling the public is now possible with electronics, also referred to as psychotronics, but control is also fed into our brains through media, particularly television, the original indoctrination device, and even the likes of Disney. Yes, kids are being brainwashed into slaves of a satanic state and made into lab rats, hence Mickey Mouse. This also has a lot to do with the gang stalking phenomenon many TIs or targeted individuals are dealing with right now. It's a subject worth checking out if you feel you might be a part of it and didn't know. MKUltra, or Mind Control Ultra, was designed to create robot slaves, mind-controlled assassins, but no doubt had initially been planned as a social engineering construct. The extensive development of electronic weaponry, mostly referred to as psychotronics, allowed a progressively longer and broader attack range. Many psychotronic weapons are patented and viewable on the Surveillance Issues website, just for one. There are many videos and websites on the subject. Also note their quoting of the Patriot Act and how we can all be legally experimented on in the USA by the Department of Defense. It's to make it legal to spy on the public at large. MKUltra would later develop into other programs as well, likely including COINTELPRO in the FBI and Project Pandora in the CIA, with the latter more directly related to mind control. You can actually see the Pandora reference used in a lot of music, particularly rock music, because the music industry itself is controlled by Illuminati handlers. Music is a subtle method of control, particularly over the teenage demographic after the initial years of media indoctrination, and not just for coercion to consumerism. This is part of the Phoenix plot of Helter Skelter and Order Out of Chaos, which will become more apparent as we go here. Just keep bearing in mind, this is all for an end goal of Satanism. Believe it or don't. Mind control doesn't have to include electronics. It can simply be demagoguing and coercion of public mindsets, the forte of COINTELPRO. This is how most of gang stalking works, casting the victim in a negative light. Many perpetrators of gang stalking are civilians, if Masons or Union lackeys, and not necessarily part of a satanic cult, mafia, or military. In fact, Satanism doesn't enter into it for most of them. It's more of a game, like the surveillance role-playing for Jade Helm exercises. It's not a game, though. It has a very serious end result you can see coming just in the rising police state, where our so-called peacekeepers are being armed to the teeth like a military. Back to MKUltra, it was designed by the Nazi scientists of Germany, Dr. Mengele mainly, who were brought back to the USA with Operation Paperclip after World War II. A lot of the psychology is borrowed from the Tavistock Institute, created for the British military, remember NWO, and in the coincidental year of 1946 when the gray alien hype began. We mentioned Colonel Aquino of the Temple of Set being in the Psychological Warfare Division of the U.S. military. Do you think that's a coincidence here? He was also accused of being part of an on-base pedophile ring at Presidio, likely for reasons of black sex magic rituals, like the Babylon working, where every kid gets to have a new demon friend, a spirit guide. Sacrifices are only part of the picture. It's the energy they use for rituals. Again, this is part of the world satanic plot of worshipping old gods like Lam, beings well known in occult circles for originating outside our universe. Insiders like former FBI head Ted Gunderson were likely killed for exposing this kind of information, mainly cases of satanic ritual abuse, but also people like Bill Cooper. I have to interject about Ted Gunderson, though. Douglas Dietrich, who has some interesting videos about the subject of the military and Satanism, claims Gunderson was in some kind of collusion with Aquino. Strange. Much of the NWO's Luciferian plot is a psyop, though. And this may seem far-fetched, but the largest group of inmates in military prisons is comprised of child sex offenders, roughly 60%, as you can clearly read about here. And I'll try to go slow, which I can't, but pause if you need to read. Then there was the case of American soldiers being told to look the other way from rampant pedophilia at military bases where Afghani Muslim soldiers were being trained, which was finally exposed, but no doubt only hand slaps dispensed for. This isn't only a Freemason or OTO insider cult of American soldiers, Defense Department contractors, or NASA employees who you'd expect to be friends with someone like the late Jack Parsons, or maybe the guy a couple of doors down from Hannibal Lecter, but I've no doubt there's some kind of satanic connection. And lastly on this subject is Project Flicker, revealing that at least 5,200 employees of the DoD, NSA, DARPA, and NRO were involved in a child pornography sting, but the investigation was minimal, largely unheard of, and prosecutions doubtful at least, as most had some link or other to the Pentagon, or the pentagram if you prefer. I will expand more on this point later with the Kay Griggs interview and her exposure of Satanism in government. Make no mistake that it's more than just a few people. I will also link Disney's sex indoctrination to these kinds of pedophile and satanic cults. There's also Satanism in the Mafia, and they're just another brick in the pyramid, to use a Pink Floyd reference. They use mind control too, no doubt mostly for deniable MK assassin personalities, but the modern mafias are highly militarized and no doubt military affiliated. Every evil plays its role in the satanic Masonic NWO plot. Some of the psychotronic devices include microwave, EMF, and ELF weapons. I won't go over every weapon or acronym. It's worth checking these out on my gang stalking playlist. The police have sonic weaponry, like LRADs, designed as a psychotronic weapon in my opinion, though it's claimed to be a non-lethal deterrent weapon for crowd control. Many of these devices can throw voices for one, as if hearing it in your head when on a subsonic or ultrasonic frequency, also known as V2K or voice to skull. This is largely the reason for using these devices in gang stalking or military targeting. The goal is murder, not control in so much, because of the Kabbalistic idea of Klipot, or clawfoot, the mark of the beast, the 66 double V hand sign, and a belief that driving a person to insanity will also send them to the abyss with the fallen angel overlords when the victim dies. This is being done to the public at large, though, and through other means than just psychotronics. It's like an evil Nazi experiment for the Synagogue of Satan, buried within Catholicism as well as antithetical Judaism. As I show more coming up soon, rock music has much to do with pushing this agenda, and I'll also talk more about the peace sign itself, a huge deception, in the next chapter about the false fifth age. It's all relative, but the end goal is to spurn the public toward the abyss using electronics. Other psychotronics are designed to input your brainwaves, interpret your thought patterns, compile them in a computer, and translate into words. Some consider that the real neurophone. They can literally read your mind with electronics now, and it has funneled down from the military into satanic groups like the Black Lodge Masons and even the Blue Lodge Masons and police. A broader and broader control base of Satanists are using this kind of technology to wrest control of the minds of the public, or even create infighting between families, ideologies, and institutions. This is a big part of the spiritual war Jesus was talking about, and the Masonic motto of order out of chaos. It's not all demonic spirits and possession per se. And again, the name Satan means adversary, but he's also known as the accuser, and this seems to be the guiding principle in gang stalking. So if I generically call them Satanists, this is why. But I think the band Metallica captured the phenomenon best with the song Sanitarium. They also have a video where a robot bug crawls out of a kid's ear when he dies, as if to say that's the only way it was coming out. So much music and so many movies reflect this satanic movement, and few are really catching it until now. And you may see quite a lot of sacrilegious imagery where people like Madonna and Kanye West wear crowns of thorns, for example, no doubt at the behest of their Illuminati handlers. They're the ones eating the biscuit, though. They all get absorbed into the machine, as Pink Floyd puts it, an almost cyborg, hive-minded beast system that's represented best by all the grids and power cords in our lives, which does provide conductivity for negative, even demonic energy that would be too much to go on about here. We're all being slowly plugged into the machine, and the transhumanist agenda can be seen quite plainly in music as well. You can understand why so many Christians are upset about the RFID chips and how that syncs with Bible scripture about the mark of the beast. We would be completely dominated mentally and physically, therefore spiritually, and as a singularity AI or singular cyborg consciousness, we are that much easier to rule over. These musical lackeys of Lucifer's goon squad are helping point your children directly into the maw of hell, and they know it. They make fun with it. It's all part of the pyramid scheme, but that's how celebrities end up in the mind control chain like the rest of us. They're just treated differently. We're all placed in cross-referenced databases by now, demographically niched into neat compartmentalized tables in a spreadsheet. Anytime the Illuminati needs to incite infighting, whether politically or with psychotronics, they just reference a sort of control group for the Hegelian dialectic. They play all nations like chess pieces, or more aptly like Stratego or Risk, while Satanists at the local level create infighting in people's homes through lesser magic, which is really just hypnosis and babbled nonsense for the most part. They love to see people fight, cause divorces, and all kinds of insanity people wouldn't know was happening. There is chaos being wrought in society up and down the pyramid, and this is classic adversarial Satanism. But also another ideology of theirs is that they are the balance in the world, the yang of the yin, the blind balance of justice and just plain polar opposite of good. This is a big motivator for them to do these things. Now I'll show you how that sick mother naughty Illuminati reference comes into play. Have you ever wondered why Disney just has to cruelly kill those mother figures, or they're just not included in movies at all? Whether it's Bambi, Dumbo, Cinderella, Snow White, or most of the rest, there's a reason behind that mother hate, and it goes along with that sex symbolism people keep pointing out in their movies. As I said before, the Babylon working was for literally recreating Babylon, and Disney has no small part in this plot. You can see the sex symbolism mostly in the newer movies like The Lion King, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and the others. Beauty and the Beast should be obvious given all I've talked about, but he is in fact a demon of a kind, a manimal. That was for a different psychological focus though. Disney also has a Masonic Club 33 at Disneyland, which is related. Also remember that unholy trinity I mentioned. It has significance here. As an aside, the anagram of Nickelodeon is O's Nick Eon. This is Satan's time after all, as I'll keep asserting, and he gets about an eon in the Bible. Satan is on about every channel now, thanks to his followers, for total control over the minds of children, and they're being forced into a mold of Satanism and mind control. It's not all about consumerism and corporate behemoths.
School is an 18-year forced government training program that sterilizes the potential for brilliance in children. Those who actually survive schooling and survive conformity and continue on to think for themselves truly are a rare breed. All children start out as curious, highly experimental minds, and then one day they're sent to school. Mandatory schooling has never consisted of anything but the memorization of monotonous dead facts and training children to master repetitious behavior. For the greater part of their day, everything the child says must match the interest of their school teachers. Their behavior must coincide with a set policy and a set regulation. They cannot use the bathrooms without permission. If they wish to speak, they must raise their hands. And after every hour or so, a bell rings and everyone must move to it. It couldn't be any more slave-like. And this type of training becomes a ritual for the child. It becomes the plot background for their television shows and books, or the ideology taught to them by a teacher or a parent. An entire monoculture is being developed here, stripping children of their power to cause trouble for the state at an early age, training them to be good servants of the politically correct. Their environment is much like a prison, by the population lacking any ability to check the authority of the warden. The process becomes a matter of rubber stamping. They have no control over their entire lives, which is directly related to youth violence, because the only control they have is between each other. Mandatory schooling produces children who are either terrified of the tyranny of others or have been raised to perpetually exploit the conditions of others. It's just like the prison system. Forced cohabitation. The child's presence in certain buildings and their engagement in state-regulated behavior is under penalty of imprisonment. An entire army of truancy officers have been hired to make sure that no child is on the other side of the bars. At the end of 18 years of coercive state authority, the child is released into the world. It's like the end of an 18-year prison sentence. Now that you're trained to do as you're told, now you can be free. And the produce of these schools, or this state-controlled manufacturing operation, is a society willing to submit, to obey, and to listen. Forced behavior, which technically amounts to a type of slavery, will only inculcate a mindset of fear and terror. You need to be somewhere at a set time, either at the orders of an authority or a bell. Everyone in one mass shifts to another position or another place to engage in a new activity. They're trained to not only follow instruction, but they're also trained to follow a certain behavior. Rules, regulations, and laws are set for the children. They say you cannot do this to others. You can do this to others. This is acceptable. This is not acceptable. Standards of culture, morality, and behavior are imprinted into these new young minds that are in the blossoming stages of development. Their minds are being intercepted by the state and molded to conform to state standards. The first lesson they teach you is the orders of authority. The second lesson is to work with each other to achieve the desired ends of those in control. If a group of children are taught to engage in the same behavior regardless of what they want to do, then they will never fight back as adults. And this is your group of tenants who will live in roaches and never call the health inspector. This is your group of citizens who is easily terrified by police officers into voluntarily giving up their rights. This is your group of workers who surrender their lives to the corporation who tells them how to dress, how to speak, what time to wake up, which means they essentially tell you what time to go to sleep if they tell you what time to wake up. This is nothing new. These are the fruits of mandatory schooling. If we look into the roots of 19th century industrialism, the Civil War demonstrated to industrialists and financiers how a standardized population trained to follow orders without significant thought could be made to function as a money tree. It's no surprise that global power and corporate wealth is based on a third-rate educational system that works against developing individuals of true character and true intellect. Because the mindless bureaucrat or the thoughtless worker who will follow a system without question is the pattern that our system depends on. And this is what school produces. The system is not designed to educate the public, which is why federal and state bureaucracies call the shots, not the parents, not the local school boards. Every law is harshly enforced with maximum punishments. The tone of a principal is much like the tone of a warden, with no check on his authority. They will always have a way of using coercive ability to enforce a standard on the population. Strict punishment awaits any kid who disobeys this ruling force, and there is no doubt that an active student body reflects positively on school administrators. It's like factory floor men. They're fulfilling their quotas to the inspecting superintendent of the local school district. This is the reality of government training. The state doesn't care if children are homeless or on the streets or suffering from malnutrition and hunger, but the second the child fails to appear in school at the scheduled time, like a court date, the police are alerted. Until we abolish mandatory schooling, your child will be brought up as a slave so that he can accept becoming a slave later in life in adulthood.
The brain is represented as male and female hemispheres, particularly in occult groups, or even a mother and father figure, if you like. The brainchild of these two halves, our dichotomous dualistic natures, is the third eye of enlightenment. It is the divine son figure to them, and they don't want any of us to have ours born, so to speak. They want us all doled down and spiritually limited in a base form of consciousness. I'm not advocating actively trying to do what they do, which is often out-of-body experiences, divination, precognition, and other practices denounced by God in Deuteronomy. But some people do naturally experience these things, and that is a threat to them. You might see through the societal MK programming then. So the female half is also known as the divine feminine or sacred feminine, and is the side they are bashing down the most with Satanism and mind control. Why they're doing this is because you can see that the creative half is what makes you question authority, just for starters. How can you be a good slave to the machine and take orders blindly if you're thinking creatively? It's important to shift more of your consciousness toward the literal left. That's why most video games are just constant left brain attacks or puzzles with little or no real creative input. This is why they created the term MDK, or murder, death, kill. They want that Jerry Springer beast mode turned on high, shifted all the way to the left. Everything in society is shifting to this attitude, which causes a lot of psychological problems on its own due to the imbalance, actually, like an inner conflict. And sex was the main factor in motivating that shift. Believe it or don't. To back this up somewhat, check out these zombie killer bullets you can buy. This is another Illuminati joke, with the joke being us goyim, human cattle, running around shooting each other. They're the vampires, and the rest of us hapless plebes are the zombies they actually feed on. It's where the metaphor in movies is coming from, and why the big zombie rage lately. Why the rage zombies is reflected a bit in the child psychological archetype of the little Nero, the ADD tantrum child who eats little ego-monger's pizza that they're promoting in society with junk food and sugar addictions mostly. Again, holiday sugar rushes. Kids fulfill the rest of the construct when they become teenagers, with music, drugs, and promiscuity mainly. Another part of the zombie metaphor is some psychotronics are designed to keep you in a fuzzy state of mind, confused, and even depressed. Are you depressed? Please take a part in our study. You may see a lot of commercials like that. Back to my point about selling sex as a beast motivator by using the woman in red symbolism the Masons love so much. They've paraded multiple sex symbols in media since the 1950s or so after the Babylon working. The red woman indirectly and psychologically acts as a representation of the mother figure, even though she's supposed to be a distraction. Without going into details in psychobabble quackery, just take for granted the obvious. However trashy that whore they prop up in front of you is, that's the mother of tomorrow that little girls are emulating now. That's easy enough to understand, right? It started off with Amy Semple McPherson, really, as she was sort of the first media darling and evangelist leading everyone astray. You'll find she has direct Masonic links through her husbands, no coincidence there. But after the Babylon ritual, it started off with Marilyn Monroe. Then Jane Fonda caused a lot of controversy with Barbarella in the 1960s. I'd have to say Farrah Fawcett dominated the 70s, since all guys had the poster, I'm fairly certain. Her marriage to the $6 million man, Lee Majors, had to be one of those arranged Hollywood deals because he is a poster child for the transhumanist agenda as the bionic man. He even fought Bigfoot, an image of the beast, real or not. Then the 80s came along, and Madonna with a very direct bash on the name of the ultimate sacred feminine. From there it just deteriorated to offshoots the Illuminati created, and ended up with obviously MK-controlled girls of Disney and the likes of Lady Gaga. When you see little girls wearing pointy bras, that's your mother of tomorrow. Don't think this wasn't all done on purpose. You can read about the beta kittens of Disney and many thought-provoking articles about mind control in media at vigilantcitizen.com. Many videos are analyzed frame by frame almost. You can see the real effects with the toddlers and tiaras tantamount to pedophilia. It most likely is for some. It would have to be. Referred to the stories in the military before. They're killing that mother figure all the way down to infancy if they can, and doing it pervertedly the whole way. If they can get grandma to get up and twirl her shirt in the air while dancing on a table, they will all cheer her on. They came up with cougars, MILFs, and no doubt GILFs are on the way unless I missed something. They're a very sick group of possessed freaks, kids. Run from them, kids. Run to Jesus. Run fast, run far. The old gods want to eat you. So do you see now how they make your mother sick and naughty? I told you so. Believe me now, don't you? Musicians are used as tools to help promote this MK agenda toward a beast system, and I couldn't possibly run my mouth long enough to cover all the material that I could prove that fact with. Many other videos are doing a great job of it actually, so look for them, but rock music was initially used as the vehicle to drive us there. Does that really surprise you after all I've said, or what you can see in music today? Everything has been driven to a lurid goth overtone, the hallmarks of Satanism. Blood, gore, death, mayhem, and wanton sex with anything that moves, ritual or not. It's driven mainstream society right into their psychological mold. Music moves everyone, and they control all sights and sounds like the TV show Outer Limits, and it's no coincidence that the theme to that show is all about the Illuminati and MK. As an aside, since I brought up the driving reference, take a look at Stephen King's Christine. The car was haunted by a demon. It was no ghost, but the movie is also about a type of mind control, and you can see that in the kids' transformation throughout the movie. Later they show their disgust for rock and roll, and that is a straight allusion to the musical mind control I'm talking about here. To further the Babylon metaphors, you can see that whore of Babylon being produced in women for the aforementioned reasons, and it's a fighting attitude to go along with. It's not all whoredom. This is part of the beast mode system for the mongrelized humanity I mentioned, creating the female side of slavery unbeknownst to the slaves. It's no coincidence that most female action characters are scantily clad, the warrior princess, which makes sense to wear a two-piece plate mail bikini in medieval combat. It's an archetype being sold to women, and little girls are eating it up as they get sucked into the nerdy world of video games and epic movies, normally only viewed by men. You are made into little Semiramissas and juniors, no thanks to the transgender, transhumanist agenda of the beast system. For men, it's the image of Nimrod, the mighty hunter. The tattoos and piercings are the marks of a mighty tribal warrior, but also part of ancient Babylonian culture, as it's been in every tribal culture all along. It's war dress. They want all the guys pumped up, full of beast rage, and in the red, base chakra zone. This can even be shown in the rising police state.
Have you ever questioned the nature of your reality?
No.
You only see what your eyes want to see.
We do not hesitate to destroy in order to create a new world.
God help it. I'm sorry for you.
And I for you, Thorndyke. You and your world.
Do you know what would happen then? Don't forget their Reichstag fire trial. You know their genius for producing witnesses and documents to prove their enemies guilty of what they intend to do.
Today, Europe. Tomorrow, the world.
One of the first things you learn in this business is forget about capitalism versus communism. That is absolute nonsense. The two are, behind the scenes, are hand in hand. You need the so-called conflict between the two to keep people focusing. Look, keep you looking over there, you know, capitalism versus communism. You know, that makes a nice little picture. You know, you get books on it and films on it. Capitalism versus communism. That's not where the action is. The action is over here.
They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening. People were extolling the virtues of Pat Buchanan and actually considering voting for that man for president, and he sent them all a postcard. And on the front of that postcard, he identified himself as a high priest of the mysteries. Because on the front of his Christmas cards that he sent to all of his followers was the penis of Osiris, the phallus, the obelisk, with a nice red bow tied around the base which represented the testes. You know what he was saying to you? Are there any children in here? He was saying, he was laughing at you. And so was every other member of the Illuminati. He was a highly degreed member of the sovereign and military order of the Knights of Malta, which was taken over in the Peasants' Revolt in England by the Knights Templars, who had sworn revenge upon the old Hospitallers of St. John's, which later became the Knights of Malta because of their role in the suppression of the Templars. How many of you watch Trinity Network? How many of you watch Pat Robertson? You ever seen the cross in the crown? Do you know what that means? It's the symbol of the Templars. The Knights Templar. It is the symbol of the unification of the church and the government over the people. Is that what you want? And if that happens, I'm going to have to take up arms all over again. And so will many of you, because you're going to be persecuted. You see? Because whichever one controls the government, you're going to have to conform to that teaching, and if you don't believe in it, you're a heretic. Do you understand what I'm talking about? What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American, because that's what it's all about, and that's the only thing that it's all about. Nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom.
In 1983, I heard Ronald Reagan and Brian Mulroney discussing the New World Order. Senator Byrd had acted in the capacity of a pimp and prostituted me to Reagan, and I was president of this White House cocktail party. Now, Ronald Reagan certainly provided a wonderful smoke and mirrors illusion for all of us. For those of you who don't want to believe that he's involved in this, he told you he's an actor. And he did a real good job of it for a long time. That was his role. That's what he was supposed to do. Nevertheless, I heard Ronald Reagan telling Brian Mulroney that he believed the only way to world peace was through mind control of the masses. I know from experience there's no peace of mind under mind control. And I wonder at a world peace where people don't have peace of mind. Mind control, the ramifications of mind control are far-reaching, because I also know that under mind control there's no free thought. Without free thought, there's no free will. Without God-given free will, there's no soul expression. What kind of a world peace can we have without any free will or any soul expression?
You took mine ever, forever and ever, you took mine ever,
One of the main focuses of the Jesuit-run New World Order is the indoctrination and corruption of the young. We have seen how this is done by proliferating perversity through popular music.
You're doing really well now, but didn't you release a CD like almost 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I released a gospel record when I was 15 because I grew up in, a household where all I ever did was listen to gospel music, and my parents are both traveling ministers, and so I kind of sang about, what was going on in my life at 15, and that's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
I'm gonna just not say what it was and just keep it to myself, just for my own personal reasons.
CBS 2's Kirk Hawkins. Kirk, good morning.
Serene, good morning to you. Right now we're waiting on an update from the coroner's office. That update could come later on this afternoon at the earliest, and we're hoping to learn more on the singer's cause of death. Of course, the body arrived here earlier this morning, very early this morning, in fact. The body of singer Whitney Houston arrived at the LA County Coroner's Office 11 hours after she was declared dead.
We're going to find out what was in her system, and I'd like to find out who, if anyone, put it in her system or gave it to her. Now, we'll charge a stiff from this. Let's take a look at Anna Nicole Smith and the allegations that came down against all the people surrounding her, including her fiance, Howard Stern. Take a look at Michael Jackson, Conrad Murray. And not only that, if you recall, Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor, brought the dope dealer into court. They gave his son, Hugh O'Connor, his final hit of drugs that caused his death. So I'd like to know who was around her, who, if anyone, gave her drugs following alcohol and drugs, and who let her slip or pushed her underneath that water. Apparently no signs of force or trauma to the body. Right. Who let Whitney Houston go under her water?
the symbol of the Templars. The Knights Templar. It is the symbol of the unification of the church and the government over the people. Is that what you want?
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like
I know from experience there's no peace of mind under mind control. And I wonder, at a world peace where people don't have peace of mind, what kind of a world peace can we have without any free will or any soul expression?
Multiple other fronts, not the least of which being the televised media and education system. Infiltration and subversion of the educational system of the United States, so as to set up a system whereby public education has been purposely dumbed down, and where the brightest minds were recruited into institutions of higher learning under Jesuit control, has been an ongoing process noted and passionately warned against by Protestant educators throughout the 19th century.
Give me a child until he is 7, and I will give you the man.
So we see on a lot of these big organizational level, a lot of Illuminati symbolism. And what it is essentially, remember with the Knights Templar, this is dominionism. This is dominion theology about taking over the world. So this explains the influx of false doctrine of Jesuit infiltrators into churches, into the mainstream Christian media, and all with this core belief of the Holy Grail, the divine feminine Gnosticism that they are really pushing onto churches, and losing those boundaries. That they're advertising it as something like in Hollywood, you know, we need to get out of this box and we need to, you know, forget all the old stuff. We need to free ourselves, liberate ourselves, liberation from the old into this new spirituality, which is a lot more humanistic, and it's a lot more divine, and you feel more, you experience more, and that's the cheese on the trap that they're trying to pull people in. I mean, yes, there are certain good things to Reformation, but they are staging a counterfeit Reformation, which is a Knights Templar Gnostic Reformation, and they're pulling people into these horrific scenes which I showed at the beginning of this, with Bethel music and all of these people that have counterfeit revivals, counterfeit prophecies, counterfeit signs and wonders. These groups that are actually pushing a Kundalini spirit. These counterfeit crusades that they hold at these top levels, which are coaxing and coercing people into a counterfeit spirit